A Chinese car company you have probably never heard of just outsold Tesla. Not in one city, not in one country, globally. And their cheapest car costs $10,000. $10,000. That is less than most people spend on a used Honda Civic with 200,000 miles on it. But here is the part that will really mess with your head. That $10,000 car now comes loaded with the same self-driving assistance technology that Tesla, BMW, and Mercedes charge you up to $15,000 extra to unlock. Except BYD did not charge extra. They made it free on every single car they sell. Every model, every trim, every price point. Free. And they did it overnight, with one announcement in January 2025. A company that most Americans still cannot pronounce correctly is quietly rewriting every rule the car industry thought was permanent. We are talking about a company that built a secret weapon inside a factory. A battery so different that it changed the entire conversation around electric car safety overnight. We are talking about a charging system that adds 250 miles of range in 5 minutes. And we are talking about a global expansion strategy so calculated that even companies protected by a 100% tariff wall are nervous. Most people hear BYD and think car company. That is actually wrong. And understanding why changes everything about how you see what they built. BYD started in 1995. Not in a car factory, in a small battery plant in Shenzhen, China. The founder, Wang Chuanfu, was a chemist. He had about $300,000 in startup money and a very clear idea. He wanted to make rechargeable batteries cheaper than anyone else on the planet. He figured out how to reverse engineer Japanese battery technology and build it at a fraction of the cost. It was not glamorous work. It was a guy in a factory breaking down existing products, understanding every component, and figuring out how to rebuild them for less money without cutting corners on performance. That kind of obsessive detail-level thinking would end up defining everything BYD became. By the year 2000, BYD was the biggest manufacturer of nickel-cadmium batteries in the entire world. 2 years later, they were the top lithium-ion battery supplier on the planet. Not top 5, number 1. In under a decade, a small factory in Shenzhen had become the beating heart of the global rechargeable battery industry. They were not building cars yet. They were building the thing that would eventually power every electric car on Earth. The guts, the chemistry, the core technology, and they were doing it at a scale and cost level that nobody else could touch. The car business came in 2003, when BYD acquired a struggling Chinese automaker. No big press conference. They just quietly bought a manufacturer, started learning the car business from the inside, and kept building. Then in 2008, something happened that made a lot of financial experts raise an eyebrow. Warren Buffett, one of the most careful and famously patient investors alive, had Berkshire Hathaway put $232 million into BYD. At the time, people thought it was a strange bet, a Chinese battery company trying to make cars. BYD was barely a blip on the global auto industry radar. By 2021, according to Berkshire Hathaway's own public filings, that $232 million stake was worth over $8 billion. Buffett did not get lucky. He saw something in BYD's structure that most analysts were not paying attention to. He saw a company that did not just make cars, they made everything that goes inside cars. And that single fact is the foundation of everything BYD has done since. Here is something most car companies do not do. When Ford needs a computer chip for a new truck, they call a factory in Taiwan and wait, sometimes 6 months, sometimes longer. During the pandemic, when global supply chains buckled, Ford and GM had to shut down assembly lines entirely. Thousands of workers sent home, billions of dollars lost. Not because they ran out of steel or rubber or glass, because they could not get a chip the size of a fingernail from a factory on the other side of the world. When BYD needed chips during that same period, they called their own chip division. Problem solved in hours instead of months. BYD makes its own batteries, motors, chips, steel, glass, and even the foam inside the seats. From raw material to finished car, almost everything comes from inside their own operation. That kind of setup is called vertical integration, and it is extraordinarily rare at the level BYD has taken it. Building it properly takes at least a decade, and once you have it, competitors need another decade just to start catching up. Most American automakers are still at the very beginning of that journey, drafting plans for factories that will not be finished for years. The cost advantage this creates is massive. When you make your own components, you cut out every middleman. You do not pay supplier profit margins on top of supplier profit margins. You do not get held hostage by a single factory in another country. You control your own timeline, your own quality, and your own pricing. And when you are selling a $10,000 car, every dollar saved in production is a dollar that makes that price possible. But the single biggest weapon BYD built in-house is something called the Blade battery. They developed it in secret, launched it in 2020, and it made the entire battery industry sit up and pay attention in a way that very few product announcements actually do. Here is how regular electric car batteries work. You take a bunch of small battery cells, pack them into modules, then stack those modules into a larger battery pack. It is like packing small boxes into medium boxes into a big box. Lots of layers, lots of complexity, lots of ways for things to go wrong, and lots of wasted space between all those layers. BYD threw out that entire system. Their Blade battery skips the middle layer completely. The cells slide directly into the pack side by side, like a set of blades in a drawer. That one change made the battery 50% more space efficient. It simplified the manufacturing process significantly and reduced the number of components that could fail. But the real proof came from a test called the nail penetration test. This is exactly what it sounds like. You take a fully charged battery pack and drive a steel nail straight through it, simulating a serious puncture, the kind of damage that could happen in a bad accident. Most batteries, when you do this, will smoke, swell, or catch fire. The heat builds up fast, and it spreads. BYD's Blade battery did none of those things. Temperature barely moved. No fire, no smoke. It passed clean. According to battery safety testing records widely cited across the industry, some of Tesla's earlier battery formats failed that exact test. The Blade passed, and BYD made sure everyone in the industry knew about it. That battery is now in every BYD vehicle, from their cheapest $10,000 car all the way up to their luxury and performance brands. One core technology, refined over years, spread across massive scale, and BYD never licensed it to outside manufacturers, which means every competitor is still trying to reverse engineer what BYD quietly figured out back in 2018, years before the public launch. Now let's put real numbers on all of this, because the actual scale of what BYD is doing right now does not fully land until you see the data. In 2024, according to BYD's official annual financial disclosures, the company sold 1.76 million fully electric vehicles and 3.4 million total vehicles including plug-in hybrids. That 3.4 million total was up 41% from 2023. Total revenue hit $107 billion. Net profit came in at $5.6 billion. Read those numbers again. $5.6 billion in net profit, growing at 41% year over year. Those are not startup numbers trying to survive long enough to matter. Those are the numbers of a mature, profitable industrial powerhouse, still in full acceleration mode. Now look at the other side of the comparison. Ford's EV division alone lost $5 billion in 2024, according to Ford's own quarterly earnings reports. General Motors burned through roughly $2.5 billion on EV operations, when factoring in factory retooling costs. These are not small or careless companies. They are two of the most experienced automakers in history, but their EV divisions are bleeding money, while BYD's entire operation is printing it. Then came January 2025, and BYD dropped an announcement that landed on the auto industry like a bucket of ice water. They launched two new flagship models, the Han L and the Tang L, and simultaneously announced that God's Eye, their advanced driver assistance system, would be standard equipment on every single vehicle in their lineup. Every car, every price point. No upgrade required. No upcharge. Free, God's eye is not a basic lane-keeping beep that nudges you back into your lane. It handles full-speed adaptive cruise control, lane centering, automated parking, highway driving assistance, and more. These are features Tesla charges several $1,000s to unlock. BMW and Mercedes bundle them into premium packages that add anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 to the final price. BYD put them in a $10,000 car and called them standard. Elon Musk saw the announcement and posted on X that it was impressive. When the CEO of the company that essentially invented the modern consumer EV publicly compliments a direct competitor's product announcement, the rest of the industry stops and pays attention. In the first quarter of 2025 alone, BYD sold 416,000 fully electric vehicles. That was a 59% increase compared to the same quarter the year before. For context, the entire United States EV market in that same 3-month window, every Tesla, every Ford Lightning, every Chevy EV, every Rivian, every Lucid, every Hyundai, every Kia, all of it combined, totaled about 350,000 units. One company, one quarter. More electric vehicles than every single EV brand in America put together. And BYD was not done. In March 2025, they made another announcement about charging that made engineers at every competing company genuinely uncomfortable. 5 minutes of charging, 400 kilometers of range added. That is roughly 250 miles. To understand why that number matters so much, think about the single biggest reason people hesitate before switching to an electric car. It is not the price anymore. It is the weight. Sitting at a highway charging station for 30 to 45 minutes while other cars pull in, charge up, and leave feels completely different from pulling into a gas station, filling your tank in 4 minutes, and driving away. That weight is a real psychological barrier, and it has kept millions of people from making the switch. 5 minutes of charging does not just shrink that barrier, it almost completely removes it. You stop, plug in, grab a drink from the vending machine, get back in your car, and drive away with 250 more miles. That is not a futuristic scenario. BYD demonstrated it working. The system runs at 1,000 volts and 1,000 amps. Numbers the current American charging network is nowhere near equipped to deliver. The entire United States has roughly 6,500 Tesla supercharger stalls total across the whole country. BYD plans to have 4,000 of their own ultra-fast charging stations across China alone by the end of 2025. 4,000 dedicated to their fastest charging tier, in one country, for one brand. The flagship car running on this new platform, the Han L, does 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2.9 seconds. That is supercar performance, the kind of acceleration that used to cost $200,000, now living inside a sedan, built on the same technology platform as BYD's most affordable vehicles. Meanwhile, the Ford Lightning is still managing range anxiety in cold weather. The Chevy Blazer EV needed a software recall before winter even started for its first buyers. The Rivian R1T is genuinely impressive engineering and costs $70,000, with charging speeds a fraction of what BYD's new platform delivers. None of those engineers are lazy or unskilled. The gap is not about effort. It is about a decade of compounding investment American automakers simply did not make in the 2000s, while BYD was quietly building everything from scratch. Now here is the part most American coverage skips. BYD is not selling passenger cars in the United States right now, but they are selling in more than 70 countries, and the way they are moving through those markets reveals a strategy far more patient and deliberate than people realize. In 2024, BYD sold 120,000 vehicles in Europe, small numbers relative to the total market, but growing fast enough that Volkswagen announced factory closures in Germany in 2024, for the first time in its entire history. The European Union slapped tariffs of up to 35% on Chinese EVs in late 2024. BYD's response was immediate. They started building a factory in Hungary to manufacture cars locally and sidestepped the tariff entirely. In Australia, one of BYD's models became one of the fastest-selling EVs the country had ever recorded. Across Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam, BYD is dominant. In Brazil, they are building a factory on the site of a former Ford plant. In Mexico, the BYD Shark, a plug-in hybrid pickup truck, became the best-selling pickup in the country by a wide margin. Not just best-selling EV, best-selling pickup, in a country where truck culture runs deep. And they are also building an assembly facility there. That raises a very specific question in Detroit. If BYD manufactures cars in Mexico, those vehicles could potentially qualify under North American trade rules and enter the US market without the full weight of the 100% Chinese EV tariff the Biden administration put in place in 2024, and the Trump administration expanded through 2025. The wall is real, but factories can be built on the right side of a border. Here is the detail that surprises most people. BYD already has a joint venture with Toyota, producing electric vehicles together in China. They supply batteries to Ford. They work with Stellantis on EV platforms. The company American consumers are blocked from buying cars from is already part of the supply chain of cars those same consumers are driving today. So, does any of this matter if BYD is not selling cars in your country? Yes, and it already has, in ways you can measure in real money. Tesla cut its prices multiple times between 2023 and 2025, not out of generosity, out of competitive pressure. The Model 3 that cost $46,000 in 2022 costs $38,990 today, over $7,000 back in a buyer's pocket. Ford dropped the Mustang Mach-E price by $8,000 in 2023. GM launched the Equinox EV at $35,000, specifically to hit a price point Chinese competition was making impossible to ignore. If you are waiting for EV prices to come down further before you buy, BYD is one of the main engines driving that timeline forward. The tariff wall is real, and it is giving American automakers time. That time is genuinely valuable. The question that will define the next 10 years of the American auto industry is what they do with it. Wang Chuanfu said in 2024 that BYD's goal is not to be the biggest car company in China. It is to be the biggest car company in the world. 5 years ago, that sounded like ambition. Today, it sounds like a schedule they are already ahead of. So here is the question worth sitting with. If BYD started selling a fully loaded electric car in the US for $15,000 tomorrow, would you buy one? Or does the brand name still matter more than the spec sheet? Drop your honest answer in the comments. If this video changed how you see the auto industry, hit like and subscribe, because the next chapter of this story is already being written.